My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, you're with Catherine Cristani today from Willow Healing Matters, the podcast, and today I am joined by the lovely Elizabeth Makepeace. Elizabeth is a natural success coach and intuitive activator. With over 27 years of experience in the field of intuitive development, she's helped hundreds of people to stop second guessing and start deeply trusting their higher self. Through intuition training, alchemy, and subconscious recoding, Elizabeth supports people in becoming who they were born to be, untethered, empowered, and led by inner truth. So a big welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. We've already been laughing together, so I'm sure
We have.
it's going to be fun.
And we were commenting for a lot of people listening, have been listening for a while. I have another Australian on the show. Woohoo!
Yeah. It's very rare, isn't it?
It is. But the first thing that captured me when I was reading your biography is what is an intuitive activator, if you wanted to share a little bit about that with the audience.
I just tend to be able to activate people into who they truly, who they truly desire to be. I follow the main calendar, and so, not religiously or anything, just, it's something that has been a bit of a hobby and interest of mine. And so I'm a 3 storm, which is all about energetic frequency and also activation, that lightning energy. So what I do is I support
I'm also
people.
a 3.
Oh, you're
Sorry. Sorry, we were talking. So for everyone. For everyone listening,
No.
the backstory to this is that we were just talking about weird coincidences with names and numbers and things like that before we started recording. And I had no idea Elizabeth was going to share this. So this is so funny. Anyway, apologies, but continue, because I was like, she's going to wonder why I'm laughing so much. So you're a 3 with the lightning and the storm.
Yes. And so one of the things that I'm really good at is supporting people to recognize their inner voice, like that internal guidance, the wisdom that a lot of us have been, I used to second guess all the time. I grew up not believing that I knew anything, and so I was completely influenced by my external life, everyone that was in my life, my parents, my brothers, everyone I thought knew more than I did. And so to flip that and to have so much guidance that, we were talking about when we got on here, so much guidance and so many synchronicities through, universal connection. It's just what I'm here for, is to support people to recognize that we all have it. We all have the ability to connect in to our higher self and to be guided from our internal wisdom.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful reminder, because so often people, you'll say like, oh, I've got these gifts, and they're like, oh, I wonder if I've got any gifts, or, oh, my spirit guides, I don't have spirit guides. I'm like, well, actually, everyone has guides in some form or another in your life. You're just not paying attention. And I feel it's really important what you were saying too, how when you stepped away from all those external influences and started trusting that inner wisdom and that voice from within, that's almost when the universe aligns those signs and you're starting to look for them, because you are more in tune with yourself, and then you're also more in tune with the universe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. We're all getting signs. It's just that we're often numb to them. We're, so caught up in what's going on externally, and watching Netflix and social media and all of those things, which completely distracts us from our internal environment. So, it's being able to recognize that we're getting those signs and allowing them to come through. And the more you focus on them, right, the more they come through, because there's this huge dialogue happening all the time. And I call it follow the white rabbit. Like there's these energy threads that you can follow if you're open to experiencing it, like open to listening.
Exactly. And I think that's it's so funny because the previous guest I had that I was interviewing, we talked about how when you're open to signs or you're asking from signs to the universe, you then actually have to be open to look for them as well. Because so often people will be like, oh, I'm asking for a sign, but it's not coming. It's like, hang on a moment. Like you, you actually aren't looking. And it's like that parable with the man on the roof and it's flooding and he's praying to
Yes.
God. I don't know if yes. And he's praying to God and he's saying, please, God, come and save me. So I think God like sends him a boat. And then he's like, I can't remember the whole thing, but I remember the boat and the helicopter. And he's like, no. And they go, come on, we can save you. He's like, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. He's like, oh, okay. And then God sends him a helicopter and he's like, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. And then he dies from the flood. And then he ends up going to heaven. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? And he's like, I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. What more did you want from me? So
Absolutely.
Yes. And so, once you ask for the signs, you have to be open and willing to receive them as well. Because if you're not ready energetically, they're not going to come to you either.
And this is the thing that I teach, right? Because so many people second guess those signs. They
Yeah.
potentially they see them, but then within microseconds, the unconscious, that familiar mind that doesn't believe in anything, and wants to stay in the known, it starts questioning it or doubting it or going into fear, like especially, if you're being given a sign that it's okay to move forward with something. I don't know if I shared with you about my 3 shooting stars when I first spiritually woke up.
No, please share.
Yeah, it was the reason I'm still here, because I when I spiritually woke up, I wasn't into any of this, and I went to a psychic who, said you can do what I do, and I didn't believe her. I thought she was a charlatan. I'd only gone to this psychic because one of my friends kept on hassling me, and I was like, I'm going just to shut this woman up. And so I went to the psychic. I started having these experiences, and she wouldn't let me come back to, find out what was going on, because my dad came through. My dad died when I was 15. And then for the first time, I felt spirit touch my face. And so then for 3 days, I had all these weird experiences, people touching me and no one there. And so she wouldn't let me come back. So I went on my own journey for like, well, what do you do when no one is into this sort of stuff? And so I went to a meditation circle, ended up meeting this guy that, long story short, took me to a workshop. And I ended up doing 7 years of past life regression training with this woman who was writing a book. But when I was going through that first process, I became, within the first year, I started facilitating past life regression. Went and did this regression with this young boy, and that's a story in itself, and I won't go into it, but it's stuffed up, and it didn't work. And I had to fix it while I was on the other side I was living up in Far North Queensland in Cairns, and I was up one end of the suburb of the beach, and he was on the other side with his mum. And I fixed it exactly the moment that I did it. An hour later, I rang his mum, and she told me exactly what happened, how it fixed, what went on. And he had said he wouldn't have another session with me because he thought I was a witch. And so, and I'm like, so when that worked,
Witch wound.
Yeah. So when it worked, because I didn't believe in any of it, I didn't believe that, I could go over in my light body and fix this problem, I didn't believe that I could do it. So when it worked, I remember putting the phone down. It was, before mobiles, it was, put the phone down
Yeah.
and going, holy crap, I am a witch. Like, it freaked me out. Like, who am I working for? What side? Like, is this right? And all of the things. And so a couple of days later, I was going with some friends up to the Daintree River to camp.
Beautiful.
They'd already been camping. They were up on the river already. So I went up. I had to wait for them on the side of the road. There's a ferry that goes past, and there's this area. No streetlights, nothing, just absolutely full of stars. And I'm laying on top of my car, rehashing the whole experience and wondering, am I working for the right side? Now, my name's Elizabeth. Back then, I used to call myself Liz, and everyone else called me Liz. And they, whoever they are in my mind, used to call me Elizabeth. So that's how I differentiated between, me and them. And I asked, I want to sign. And they said, you don't need a sign. You already know that you're doing the right thing. And I chucked a tantrum. I threw my hand on the car and I went, God damn it, I want to sign, and I want to sign like in the movies, or I'm not going any further. And in that exact moment, I had 3 shooting stars. And I'd been watching for like 5 minutes before. There was nothing before, nothing after. And I know, those shooting stars, my science brain goes, those shooting stars were going to be there anyway, right? Like, the way it is, quantum physics, the way the universe works, they were going to be there. But what made me have that whole experience prior, have that question in my head, asking the question, wanting an answer, and asking in that exact moment for those stars seconds later to fall. Like, you could just ignore those 3 shooting stars and say logically that they were going to be there. But when you see something that the universe is giving you, you want to grab hold of it and use it to your advantage for your growth.
Yeah.
Because after that, I kept moving. I kept on going.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to say with that too, you need to learn to be very specific with when you ask for signs. So I had this story. I'm like, I need to share it. So I did this like phone call thing with this person, and that she had this thing called like an angel school, and it sounded amazing. And I thought, this is really good. And she's like, what are your guides telling you to do? And I'm like, well, I'm getting a yes, but it's like, but the investment was so big. I had no idea how I would find the money to do it. It was quite large. So my husband's, I was so distraught because I'm like, I'm following my intuition, I'm trusting this, and I'm just getting a yes, I'm meant to be working this angel school. And anyway, so I went out to this park where I go meditate because it's just separate from everything. And I sit under this big tree, and I was like, got a yes again. I said, okay, well, I want to sign. Like, if I'm meant to be doing this, I want to see a black cockatoo fly over my head, because black cockatoos are very rare where you see them and that sort of thing. So I get home, I get out of the car, and a black cockatoo flies over the top of my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is definitely a yes. And I'm like so upset and distraught because I'm like, and I walked in, my husband's like, what'd you get? I said, I got a yes. And then this happened and I got a yes again. And he's like, did you ask when you're meant to do it? And I was like, hang on. So then I go meditate. And I'm like, am I meant to do it now? They're like, oh no, you can do it whenever. And then I was like, okay. So then a few nights later, I'm meditating, and for me, like, different portals or like different zones and dimensions show up with like a door. And anyway, I'm meditating up with my higher self, my guides, and I turn around and there's this door, a new door, and it's got like an angel wing on it. And I'm like, okay. And I open the door and they're like, here's your angel school. You don't need to pay someone else to teach you this. You can already do it yourself. And I'm like, okay, thank you. That's really comforting. But at the same time, it's like, why? Because you have to go through those little trials and tribulations, right? To learn to trust and to learn to actually listen to that inner voice and that intuition. But you do have to be specific as well.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you can keep getting these yeses, and it's like, but it's not happening, And it's making sure that the questions you're asking are the right questions, as you said, being specific. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly what you said. It's how you ask the question. So if you keep asking the same question and you're not getting a clear answer, maybe you need to change the question. So, I'd been asking this week, just because I'm going through this massive transition in my life. And I'm like, all right, what clients am I meant to be serving? And then I kept getting these cryptic dreams of a friend of mine and a number. And I was like, okay, all right. So it was 2 nights in a row. And then the third night, I didn't ask that question, but I got a bit more clarity on it. It's like, okay, I understand why you're showing me her now. But then last night I went, all right, give me a sign of what I'm actually meant to be doing. Like, it was just slightly different wording. And then I woke up this morning and I had this connection call with somebody, and it was like exactly what I should be doing in the world. It was like an invite to come and do this. And before she even finished talking, I'm just saying, yes. I'm just like, yes, yes, but it was changing the question and then being open to look for the answer, because I was just like, what do you like? I've got all these things I can do. What do you want me to do right now? So because as we shift in our identities, then what we do shifts as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's also been like recognizing the little inspirations that come to us, right? Like recognizing that we are the creators of our life, and
Correct.
um, you know being able to be guided, but also making the decision for ourselves on top of that. Like having that self authority, that self sovereignty, um, and one of the things that I support my clients with is recognizing when they're in their flow of creativity, because we've all got our own blueprint of how we create things, and when we're not, because we've also got a blueprint, like it's a fingerprint, sort of like unique way of when we don't get what we want, how we fail. And so when you can see when you're in your flow, like when I'm in my flow, it's no big deal. Like it just sort of happens. I might have a thought to do something, like going to the beach and meeting Tim. Um, I will I share that story, because that's another beautiful one that is
Oh,
synchronicity.
yes, please share. So, Elizabeth's surname is really Makepeace. So I had to ask before we started, is your surname Makepeace? And I feel like this story is really important to share because it also shows more signs as well. So go ahead,
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
and it is. It's because so many people change their name, right, and make names up and all of those things, because they're in alignment to do that. But I when I'm in my creative orientation, when I'm just creating, everything is just an ordinary day. There's no big deal about it. And that's what happened the day that I met Tim at the beach. So I had been online doing some training, and it was a full day and sitting on my butt, watching a screen. And I live at the beach, right? So I live in a beautiful area of Australia, down the south coast of New South Wales, of Sydney. And I just had this thought, I might go to the beach before I make my dinner. Just get my feet wet, ground after being online for so long. And so it was no big deal, just had the thought. So I went down the beach, and I was the only one on the beach. The waves were really big, so I was taking a Facebook Live of the waves. And this guy walks past and waves at me. Now, when I'm doing a Facebook Live, I never interact with anyone, but you see me wave back. And so he goes all the way to the end of the beach. From his end, he said, it, he thought, who on earth is that? And he got to the end of the beach, and he just had this feeling he couldn't leave. He had to come back and talk to me. So he walks back, we start chatting, off we go. Well, I find out afterwards. So my maiden name, I grew up with my maiden name being Payne, Payne. and I'm a healer. Get that, right? Well, his last name is Makepeace. So I've gone from pain to make peace. And
I
I
love
just
this
love
so
the way the
much.
universe, yeah, is so cool, right? And I had to question him. Like when I saw him friend me on Facebook, I thought, he wasn't quite spiritual at the time. I thought, who makes their name, like changes their name to Makepeace? So I asked him, why'd you change your name to Makepeace? He said, I didn't change my name. I grew up with that name. I'm like, you're joking. So
There's another sign. There's another sign.
yes. And yet when I'm in my dysfunction, when I'm not doing what, when I'm heading for
Not
failure,
aligning.
right, and I'm not going
Mm.
to get what I want, I've got a specific pattern that I follow, right? One of the first things I know is that I get super excited about something. Then I see it as it's going to resolve a problem I've got. So I go all in. And then I change the decision of what I want. So instead of it being, you know, going to Mexico, for example, to see a business mentor, all of a sudden Tim and I were going to have a holiday and it was going to be this big thing. And so I make it bigger than Ben Hur. And then when it doesn't start working out and it starts collapsing, I notice and see and I try to get, back into the swing of it, but I can't. And so now that I know what my pattern is, as soon as I get excited about something, I can stop. I stop and I pause and I go, wait a minute, why am I excited about this? Because this means that I'm just about to fail. so, we, I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it? But when you can, like, it's the ultimate self awareness tool, because when you can recognize what your pattern is when you succeed at something and when you don't get what you want, now you've got the opportunity to see the steps. Because it took me a long time to recognize, I just went to the beach. I just went to Daintree and asked a question. There was no big deal about it. So when I get what I want, I have this flow, and it's just an ordinary day. And so
Mm.
that's when I'm in tune with what the universe is giving me. So
Yeah,
it's
and I think that's
checking your own. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel that's such an important contrast, Elizabeth, because people think when you're in flow, you're constantly in joy and bliss and all this excitement and everything, but it's not. I fully understand what you mean. When I'm in flow, I'm just at peace, like at complete peace, and nothing phases me. It's like, your child can be going off, your husband can be saying whatever, things can be collapsing around you, and you're like, okay, right, I'm just going to stay in this flow and stay at this, in my happy peace. And, so often success, we've been taught and conditioned to measure success by material things, like, do you have the house? Do you have the cars? Where do you live?
Mm.
All these things. Whereas success is a feeling. So for me, when I'm feeling successful, it's that peace and flow state. Then I know I'm on the right path and I'm having that success and I'm achieving things. It doesn't mean I don't celebrate my wins and I don't get excited, because we still need that dopamine hit. But at the same time, it's recognizing, okay, when you get that feeling, all right, this is my version of success and this is how I honor that. So having that contrast can be really important too, because if you're always chasing the material things, you're going to be the hungry ghost. You're never going to feed it. It's never going to feel satisfying or feel enough.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. When I get what I want, I get excited. But it's
Yeah.
beforehand. If I get excited beforehand, that's when I can click and go, wait a minute. Something's going on here.
And you also do a thing with your clients called recoding, which I'm curious about. Tell us a bit about that.
So, recoding is based in alchemy. So, I teach the secrets of alchemy and how to create. So, there's sort of like 5 steps to creation. And what we do with recoding is we've all been conditioned to not listen to ourselves, right? I mean, the very nature of being human and being on the planet, uh, the whole system works like that. As soon as you're born, you know, when you think about it, when you're in the womb, you've got everything you need. You just have to be, right. You're nice and warm. You're being fed without even having to do anything. You don't have to breathe. Everything's just provided for you. But as soon as we're born and that umbilical cord is cut, now we're separate, or we're, that's the dichotomy of life, because we look separate, right? And so we've got to have air external to ourselves and breathe. We've got to have food external to ourselves. We've got to have love and nurturing and warm clothes and a place to live. All of those things are external. So from 0 to 3, we are a sponge. We're absorbing everything that's outside of our world, like our internal world, so that we can understand how to be human, how to live, how to survive. So our unconscious is developing, and we're at a brainwave frequency that's like being hypnotized. So it doesn't matter what we are experiencing, we are is being absorbed, and there's no filter. There's no opportunity to discern whether this is right or wrong, good or bad. It just comes in, and we see it as truth. So think about your own childhood. Often we grew up with parents that didn't know what they were doing because none of us do, right? We live in a society where, things are hard and challenging, and, consciousness is developing, as we learn and grow and expand and experience ourselves as more. But most of us grew up when that wasn't happening. That's only just starting to really become part of our life. So what I do is I support people to learn how to create, how to, focus on what it is that they want to create, because we're powerful beings and we can create. But we have this stuff, so we can manifest all these things, but we can have all of this stuff that's holding us back, belief systems that aren't ours, or, conditioned from our childhood that just aren't relevant anymore, right? But are still silent instructions. We've got things that we define, or definitions and labels, and emotions, and we've got events that have created a charge or a trigger in us. And so all of that stuff, I see it like weight. It weighs us down and tethers us to our human condition. But where we are at the moment in society is we've got the opportunity to elevate from third dimension into fifth dimension. And we've just moved from the age of Pisces, which was all about dominance and control. And we're moving into, or we have just moved into a 19-year cycle of the age of Aquarius, which is all about self-authority and, peace, love, mung beans, and all the things that they sang about in the 60s.
Decline of the patriarch. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've got this really beautiful ability and opportunity to really, dive into all of those seeds that are in our DNA, past lives, generational history, all the things that are holding us in that heaviness. And recoding is like, the way I explain it is, they say if there's a cancer cell and certain things can switch that off, that gene, and move it back into a normal cell, sort of like that. So when we do a recode, we go in and find the original source, and we just flick it so that it's now, neutral. It doesn't have that heaviness, and it brings us into more of our light, so that we're holding more capacity of our true self instead of all the weight from the past.
Yeah, which is, I work very similarly. That's why I'm smiling, because, but for me, I look up and I pull up the divine blueprint, like your actual original DNA. And then for me, I get shown which areas need to be recoded, if you will, and which areas need to be activated or switched off, and then I'll also see chords where the chords are actually pulling on and stopping the unique divine blueprint to express itself. So then you look at what is actually holding back and be the original memory. So I love that we both have this same approach, but we've learnt it very differently, which which is the magic.
Mm.
And this is why like attracts like, right?
Yeah,
This is
absolutely. And
yeah.
and we're in a space at the moment where, you know, we don't have to go back into all the pain and trauma and drama. We can
No.
just shift it, you know, and that's what, you know, this is a beautiful time in history to be here.
Yeah, and even, you know, people doing inner child work and things like that, it gets to that point where you understand it so much that you can just call in multiple versions of yourself that have been through that same expression of trauma, and you can just do it all in one go. Like you said, you don't have to relive every moment. It just all
Yes.
just collapses because you've addressed the source and you've able to collapse that original program or belief that's then filtered into stopping you from being your most divine soul aligned self.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It's magic. It's pure magic. And it was funny what you were saying before about the witch. For me, I had to actually buy myself a crystal ball because I had this fear of crystal balls because of like past life things and everything like that. So when you were sharing before with the witch, it was so, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I had to do to get past that wound. And I don't use it because I don't need it to use it as a divination tool, but I just had to buy a crystal ball because that's what I needed to help my mind get through that, and to have like, sometimes you need something concrete in this 3D world to help your 5D self plant in and go, okay, no, we're actually safe now and we can move forward to this next aspect of our life.
Mm. Well, you know, when I was doing past life regression, 7 years is a long time, right, to be doing that sort of work. And I had these moments, like so many people having past lives of being, you know, being burnt at the stake or drowned or, you know, crucified and all the horrible things that, you know, used to happen to us. And I remember having this moment of like, I've done so many lives, like why hasn't anything come through, you know, like that? Why haven't I had an issue, you know? And this was, you know, 20 years ago or whatever. And so anyway, within a couple of weeks, I have a session, and I'm a midwife. I'm birthing, helping a woman birth her baby, and it's coming out breech. And I'm in this like hut, and the baby's coming out breech. Anyway, the red coats come in, and next thing I know, I'm running down a path into the forest, and myself as Elizabeth sitting, you know, laying down having the session, was thinking, what are you doing? Why aren't you, like, that woman is going to get killed and that baby's going to get killed, you know? And the part of me that was running was saying, I'm important, you need, you know, I need to go because I'm the last of my lineage, and so I need to run into the forest. And so I go into the forest, I'm there for years, and I meet a man, and this is where it gets trippy, right? I meet a man, I turn into an owl, he turns into an eagle, and we actually have a firstborn baby. Well, the baby turns out to be my mother in this life.
Wow. Yeah,
And
trippy
so,
stuff.
yeah, trippy stuff, right? And so when I went through that, I'm like, that's why I haven't had any trauma, you know, like I didn't get burned at the stake in that life. I found out I was burnt in another life. But yeah, I didn't have to go through, because when I did, there was no trauma to it. I just surrendered, and I came back, you know, and to finish the journey off. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting, all the dynamics, isn't it?
So many. And, you know, a lot of people, even I have a few clients, and it's like unpacking all the religious beliefs, like whether this lifetime or last, like past lifetimes. And, you know, and then also unpacking the witch wounds. Like me, I've had multiple witch wounds. And then now I'm just like, you know, I'm here to correct that. That's why I'm here in this
Mm.
life, you know. So it's about understanding. And I feel everything that you do, Elizabeth, is coming back to that, learning to get to know yourself so much that you can see where you're heading for success and you'll live in your flow and everything like that, versus when there's something else coming up to trip you up in that failure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what we're all here for, right? Is to start to elevate into those, new dimensions, and to recognize the oneness and unity, and that we're not separate.
100%. And as we start to finish our time together, Elizabeth, I ask the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
The one thing, if I could get everyone to recognize that we're not separate, and to just have that consciousness that we are actually all part of the bigger whole. Can you imagine the ripple effect of that? That would be just enormous.
Agreed, 100%. And if anyone wants to come work with you, Elizabeth, or find out more about what you do, how can they find you?
So my website is Elizabeth Eleanor, and Eleanor is spelled a little bit differently. So it's ELENOR.com. So ElizabethEleanor.com. All my stuff's on there. You'll be able to find my socials. I've got free resources. There's a quick chakra balance for busy people that, you can have as a little gift as well. So all the stuff's on there.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to include everything in the show notes so that everyone can find you. But thank you so much for sharing your time with me, Elizabeth, sharing your journey, sharing the idiosyncrasies in your life. Why can't I say that? That happen.
It's a challenging word,
and everything else.
It?
I know. Why? But let's just summarize that as the sign and symbols. But thank you so much for joining me, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure too. Thanks so much, Catherine.
There we go. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.